What's up, everybody? I'm gonna wait another minute. I decided I'm getting better with getting on here early. Well, a minute's far from being early, but it is what it is. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm realizing if I'm gonna do this thing every Tuesday and Thursday at 7:30 a.m., I may need to get some theme music up in here, man. I think I'm gonna work on that. I think I'm gonna hook that up. Good morning, good morning, good morning. How are you all today? All that are watching the replay or watching me live, about to watch live. Well, there's no one here yet, so all good. In today's session, today's session is Men, Lust, and Life. Men, Lust, and Life, navigating men's desires and life's passions. I have to say, I had reservations about presenting this today, solely for the word lust. And it's interesting, the thumbnail, I was using Midjourney, and I used as a prompt a man and woman lusting over each other, or lusting after each other. I'm failing to remember exactly what I said, or like exactly what I wrote. And it said this is against community standards. Basically, it was like, it was too adult. And I was like, damn, man, this is very interesting. Like, wow, this is something else. So it heightened my awareness to this word lust and its symbolism, implications, however you want to phrase it. Yet at the same, however you want to phrase it, there's still something about lust that puts people into this mode that is solely about sex. And most of the time it is. So before I dive into this, I want to provide context. So a couple of things happened over the past several days. At the time I'm recording this is Tuesday, 10/10, Portal Day. And I was in my mentee call, and my mentee we were talking, well, both of us were talking about lust, right? And it started off talking about judgment over joy and turning that to joy over judgment. And the question came up: is it wrong to be lustful? And my first inclination was to be like, yes, it is wrong. And then I was like, wait a second, is it really? Is it really? I mean, and for ladies that watch this, is it wrong for your husband or boyfriend to lust over you, to lust after you? Is it really wrong? I mean, there may be times that you may not want that, but like, it shows to me, lust is an intense passion. So it planted a seed in my mind about this conversation about lust. Then that was the first piece of context. And then the second piece of context was, I was recording the audiobook for Heal.Thy.Man Method. And I was writing about the sacral energy chakra. And this program that I created a couple years ago called, well, actually, what was it? So yeah, it was last year. This program called Dick Discipline. And it was using sex energy, being able to transmute sex energy into creating something powerful and potent in life. And it really pushed me over the edge to present this content on this platform and to have it out here so that men can come and see this, to to address lust that they may have, or to address any shame that may have been put on the man, saying, "Oh, you're too lustful, you're lusty," or like, "Why is it all about sex?" and blah 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 blah. And it's very interesting, right? Because if you look at the environment that we're in, the majority of our environment promotes sex for men, anyway. I mean, think about this, right? I mean, I go to the gym, and most of the time, I like going in the morning because it's like the people that go in the morning are on point. They're like, it's no flash and flare. They're there to work out and get their job done. Yet when I find that I go at night, I see a lot of women wearing like dental floss up the butt crack, man. Like wearing tight pants, showing off a whole lot of body. And then there's this thing of like, you can't look at me. Like, even though I got my whole skin showing, don't look at me. Don't you dare. I'm like, security. This guy, get him out of here. He's looking at my titties, even though they're out. Right? If you look at social media, a lot of women, like when they're posting videos, like most of the time their titties are out. Like it's actually very very interesting. I observe these things, yet at the same time we're not we it's becoming more common to talk about sex. Yet when men talk about sex, it's something that's vilified. We're perverted, we're lustful, like we're thirsty. And I think it's very interesting. I think it's creating a passive nature in men, and a fear in men to even want to address and present and feel into lust. And I think that's creating a lot of dis-ease in men, whether it's low testosterone, lack of passion. So that's where I'm going with this today. And I wanna start diving into the content because I put myself on a time frame for these for now. And I want to address first the concept of lust, and I'm going to present this to us here. Hold up, mouse time. Okay, so now taking a look at the screen here. Hold on, set entire screen. So when we look at the word lust, of course, the noun is a very strong sexual desire, like you lustful mother. That's more of an adjective that's describing a person, place, or thing. Yet at the same time, like as a noun, very strong sexual desire, a passionate desire for something. Notice, a passionate desire for something, a lust for, in this case, power is the example. Now, one of the things I thought was interesting when I was looking up the words, and I love looking up words because it's like it brings forth like some truth to things, like like different ways a word can be perceived. From a theological sense, a sensual appetite regarded as sinful. Now, I thought this was very interesting because a sensual appetite is automatically implying sex. Yet when I look at a sensual appetite, I look at the senses. So I have an appetite for, if I'm looking at it from the senses perspective, I have an appetite for feeling into my senses, being present, being in the moment, having really being passionate about whatever I'm with. So I look at that as when I'm taking a hike, I can be sensual in the forest. Like I love to just stand, feel the soil, like really feel, like put my hand in the soil, feel it. What do I see? What do I hear? What do I smell? I'm in it. Yet when you look at the theological perspective, it says essential appetite regarded as sinful. A lot of times and this is something that came up in my conversation with my mentee, was that both of us come from a very religious background. So the concept of sex is automatically seen as a sin, right? Like don't you talk about sex. Don't do it. No, 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 no. Don't you talk about it. Right? Yet at the same time, sex is something that sex is a natural part of life. It's natural. Yet it's usually vilified. Now, as a verb, have a very strong sexual desire for someone. He lusted after her, right? So this is where, for example, I felt the urge to speak this, is that for men, I think when there's a lack of healthy expression of sex desire or sex energy, it can become a destructive lust, and that would create more of like the term shadow, or a dark sexual energy, where it's like like really porn addiction, sex addiction, where it's like they're striving to get something rather than really being present and sensual in the moment, in the experience. Now, this is what really prompted me to have this piece is or have this speech or talk is a strong desire for something. And I want to dive into this because I think this is something that men are lacking now is a strong desire for something. And listen, it can be extremely easy to lose passion in my judgment, right? Because what I see is that there can be, and this is, I'm speaking from my own experience, and if it's your experience, you could type it in the comments or leave your experience. I find that over time, like it's important for me to continue to tap into what I'm passionate about, because I can get caught up real easy in like, okay, man, I got to make sure I have this money for this bill. I got to make sure I have this money for this bill, and I got to pay child support, and then I got to pay rent, and then car insurance, all these things. And I'm getting caught up in doing repetitive actions to get by. And one of the things like it's very important for me to do on a regular basis, meaning like several times a week, is to tap into what I'm passionate about and do certain actions in that place where I'm passionate. So I'm passionate about men's health and well-being. I'm passionate about building my business so I can really be out there and speak to more men and more people about the things I have to offer about men's mental health and wellness, about communication, about spirit and tapping into things like meditation, visualization, and shamanic practices. I'm passionate about these things, so I get to make sure that I'm doing something in those realms. It helps keep my passion alive, and I lust for the ability to see people shine and get it. I lust for that, man. I have a strong desire to see people get it and to see people ascend. So when I look at that, I notice that when I talk to men, a good amount of men, when I ask things like, "Hey, what are you passionate about?" It takes a while for them to answer, and I think this is something that while lust is dampening men, like like you can't talk about sex, or like if you talk about sex or you do this, like you're a pervert or you're this. While it's dampening the sex desire, that potency is also dampening other areas of life. So if a man loves sex and they're not getting it, right? So I see in relationships there's a lot of sexless marriages. Like men aren't getting any nookie. And all of a sudden they become dead inside and they're just like going, let's do that sex is an expression of aliveness. It helps bolster, it helps build. So even if you look at things like semen retention, when you're holding your seed or when you're harnessing, I prefer to say harnessing your seed. When you're harnessing your seed, now all of a sudden you have clarity, you have drive, you have motivation. Hell, me being on dick discipline and harnessing my sex energy and teaching myself to harness my sex energy helped me produce Heal.Thy.Man method. It helped me make that. So when I look at this and I see like, oh, junk, this is potent, man. Like this is something that is powerful for men, yet at the same time men never learn about this, boys never learn about this. And this is another part of the conversation that happened in the mentee call, is that when boys specifically are at that adolescent age, we're never taught and continue to be taught about the power and potency of sex energy. Most of the time, like there's a conversation about, look, this is your penis, these are your testes, this is what happens. You have sex with a woman, you ejaculate semen into her, you can get her pregnant. All right, does anybody have any questions? All right, get out there and go have some sex or do something, and make sure you wear rubber. What is that? That sex education is lackluster. On the opposite side with women, every month there's something to remind them of what's happening with their body. The implications of like, hey, you ovulate, you have your period, you're flushing out things out of your body, so it's like you restart the cycle. So there's always an opportunity for you to get pregnant, right? There's an awareness there that the women get to have, whereas men lack that. Men lack that, and all of a sudden we start learning from things like porn, and then guess what? Now all of a sudden we have an unhealthy sexual perception and desires. So when I look at this, also coming from the Old English aspect, lust is pleasure or delight, right? Does this say pleasure and delight in sex? Nope. It says pleasure and delight, right? So when I look at this too, now I want to tap into something else here that I think is relevant, and this is tapping into what Napoleon Hill and the Napoleon Hill sex energy conversation. So this is what when I was reading this, I thought, man, like this, I love. First of all, I'm a big fan of Napoleon Hill, and when this quote came through, I said, man, this is powerful. This is what really prompted me. This was the spark I needed to really help me get the book, because Napoleon Hill in Think and Grow Rich, he has a book called chapter about sex transmutation. So this here, and this is the power of sex energy, man. I want to make sure that you understand and get this. When driven by this desire, men develop keenness of imagination, courage, willpower, persistence, and creative ability unknown to them in other times. The desire or urge for sexual expression is natural and inborn, and should never and should not be suppressed or eliminated. Notice this: should not be suppressed or eliminated. In a lot of our culture right now, it's very interesting how sex continues to be promoted, yet at the same time, if a man talks about or gawks at a woman, they're like, "What are you looking at?" Like, "Yo, I'm looking at your freaking titties hanging out of your freaking out of your dress. I'm looking at your physique. I think you have a beautiful body." But like, if men say that, like, there's a lot of times you could be vilified unless you have a certain stature. So what happens? So what's the reason that I bring this up? Because right now, my judgment is that the sexual energy is suppressed, or it's trying to be eliminated from men. Women have the ability. They can have sex whenever they want to. They can choose who they have sex with, yes, and they have the ability to have sex whenever they want to. Men is far from that. So my invitation in speaking this and having this live is for men to truly tap into what is their purpose, to leverage sex energy in a way that will fuel what they are passionate about in life. And to get there is key for you to know what the heck are you passionate about in life, right? So when I look at this, for example, what was this thing? Uh, yeah, hold on. No, I'm not going there. So reason why I bring this up here is because when the sexual energy is suppressed, I think that's when a depression can come, right? It's there's this wanting and longing for something, and it's like something over there. Because when it comes down to it, how men are taught most of the time is like, hey, listen, you want to get this riches and this car and you look like this to get women, and that's far from the truth. Like, I mean, I've had to learn that the hard way. I mean, listen, my story, I'm going to go into that in other podcasts, and you can listen to past podcasts to hear more of it. For right now, I'll say that the majority of my life, though, I thought that, like, I had to be something or be someone or have a certain status to get women. Or I thought that for a lot of my life, like, having a woman or having a lot of sex was a way to validate myself as a man. And that's far from the truth. Now, what happens is now in these times, a lot of men, especially men in their late 20s or going into 30s, are not having sex. They're just not. They're not even going out and dating. Like, I was watching something. They were talking about how Tinder is calling for more men to join the site. Men are just like, yo, I'm gonna stay and watch my PlayStation or stay and play my PlayStation or Xbox or whatever kind of console they're working with, because there's safety there. There's like a way for them to have, like, it's something that's engaging. There's a sense that, like, hey man, I matter. So when you look at this statistic, over 6 million men suffer from depression per year. And this leads to a lot of the suicide statistics. When I was looking up the suicide statistics here, I was like, damn, this is crazy that men are I think it's almost 4 times more likely to commit suicide than women. When I looked at the age here, this was something that attracted me, because the highest suicide rates are highest among ages 75 years or older. What's the reason that could be? Well, most of the time at those ages, men may think like, yo, I have no more purpose. There's no thrill to life. There's nothing to keep them alive, so they slowly die. It's like what happens in retirement. Men never retire. You could change career, change whatever you do, but be free of ever retiring, because that's the sign of death. All right. Now, when we think about some of the, even like, yeah, I'm not even gonna go into that because that's just like a whole bunch of data in that. But like one of the things that I think is important is the what's when I looked at the men's lack of desire. I see a lot now about things like taking a blue pill or like the him pill or whatever it is. Like I see those advertisements, and when men like have a lack of desire, purpose, that testosterone is going to fade. You're gonna have low levels. Men fail to move right now. They fail to get that blood flow, and a lot of times the blood flow is stemmed from like being passionate about something. Like think about it. When you see someone that's passionate about something, their face is flushed. They're like engaged. They're energetic. The energy's flowing. If they're lackluster, they're like, yeah, I don't care. Whatever you want to do, man. Yeah. Whatever you want to do, man. I'm good with whatever. You know. And that's something far away from where we want to be or where we want to go. We definitely want to have something where it's like, hey, men can feel and men can experience something that's true, something that's powerful, something that's potent. So what do we want to do with this here? As I start to wind this thing down, what we want to focus on here, men, is starting to have a lust for life. What in your life has you passionate and fired up? And if you hearing this question, you're asking like, well, gosh, man, I have no idea. That means it's time to get sensual and get out in the world. What do you mean, Paul? I'm glad you asked. Sensual means like start embodying or start tapping into your senses. What are you feeling? What do you hear? What do you sense? What do you see? And what do you want? Like start looking into things like this and start asking yourself these questions, because now when you start to ask yourself these questions, now your brain is going to help you to start find answers, and also that's going to naturally get you to try different things. Like I remember, like it was interesting, perfect example, when my former girlfriend, we broke up before the final breakup. I remember she moved and I was like, I want to learn how to dance. That's something that she wanted, right? And I was like, I'm going to learn how to dance. And I found that, like, you know what? Dance is really cool, but I never had a passion for it. I found like if there was a passion for it, I would have kept doing it, right? And the passion has to be for me. The passion to do it was for someone else. So I say this because, like, whatever passion you have, I want you to check in with yourself honestly and authentically. Is that passion yours? Are you doing this for someone else, or are you doing this for yourself? It's important, man, because so many times we think we got to do stuff for other people to make other people happy. Like happy wife, happy life. Yeah. Far from the truth. The first person you get to make happy is yourself. The first person you get to make happy is yourself. And if you're like, what does that mean, Paul? I don't understand. Well, guess what? You have a homework assignment then. You have something that you get to learn and do. Because when it comes down to it, like it's a must for you to be able to say, like, hey, I love doing this because this gets me fueled up, this gets me fired. I love I love painting, I love riding my bike. Whatever it is, get your passion back. Have a lust for life, have a lust for something outside of sex. Okay? Have a lust for something outside of sex and notice what starts to happen for you in your life. Just witness, just notice what starts to happen for you when you really start engaging. Like, man, like I'm lusting for this. And again, the concept of lust, right? Or the term is as a verb, to feel a strong desire for something. So when you're sitting in this place, I want you to again be very aware that what you're doing, and how you show up. Like if it's a passion that you have, you got lust for it. And it's okay to have a desire. It's okay to have a passion. It's okay to be lustful, okay? It's all healthy because like we are passionate, testosterone driven individuals and beings as men. The more that you tap into that, things will shift in other areas of life. As above, so below. How we do one thing is how we do everything. So if you're lacking lust or you're like your sex is dampened, then you know what? Find something else that's gonna increase that sex energy for you. Because as Napoleon Hill said, right? Coming back to that sex energy, when driven by sex desire, sex energy, or lust, men develop keenness of imagination, courage, power, persistence, and creative ability unknown to them at other times. And so it is, and so it is, and so it is. My name is Paul Newell. I'm excited for you to thank you for joining. I'm excited for you to be involved with this podcast. I'm going to be having like every Tuesday and Thursday at 7:30 a.m. for now. I'm also putting up here the Heal.Thy.Man. If you're in the New Jersey, New York, or Pennsylvania area, even Connecticut, I'm having a Heal.Thy.Man mental health event on Sunday, November 5th, 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. It's going to be a book reading. I'm going to read some passages from my book. My book will be there for sale. And also a portion of the proceeds that are collected for the event will go to NAMI, which supports men's mental health and mental health overall. Mental health for men, mental health for veterans. It's important for me in November as November is also Men's Mental Health Awareness Month and also Veterans Day. So bless up to you. Thank you. Tune in. If you like this, like it, comment, share. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Like, what's your concept of lust? What's your concept of sex desire? How has lust played a part in your life? Share so other people can read it and then start to know that, hey, you're far from alone. Bless up, everybody. Check out Heal.Thy.Man.Method.com. Pick up the book. God damn it. And then also, guess what? The book, the ebook and audio book will be available in November. So thank you for tuning in. Until next time, peace.